I'm on, I think, my 43rd city out of a 50-city book tour here, and I'd say at least 20 of the events have been at Unitarian churches. No planning of that involved, and I continue to think that rather than having yet another Unitary executive, we ought to for once have a Unitarian executive. Reminds me of someone who would be 81 years old today if he were with us. You know who I'm talking about. Dr. King would be 81 today if he had not been shot, and he would be active. And he said a year to the day before he was shot that a nation that continues to put more of its money into the military than into programs of social uplift is headed for spiritual death. Right? And that was in 1967. 1967, we have been on that path for 43 years. Our national government spends more on the military now than on everything else put together. And when was the last time you heard anything about a program of social uplift? I was watching an NFL football game recently, which I guess is our program of social uplift. And they come on and they say, "We welcome America's servicemen and women watching in 177 nations around the world." What the hell are we doing in 177 nations around the world? And who are the lucky few nations that we're not in? But you have got people living on the streets in San Diego. And you've got aircraft carriers sitting in the water. And one of them alone, that price tag could change everything. You have state services being cut for things like children with disabilities. You have the lifeguards being taken off the beaches. You have people with sickness and no health care. And it's not because we don't have the money. Martin Luther King had it exactly right. It is a choice that we make. We make these cutbacks that will kill people here so that we have the money to go kill other people elsewhere. We make this choice. And to the extent that we don't know it, it's because we've cut back education, and it's because the media is complicit in it. And if you put money in education, or mass transit, or infrastructure, or green energy, you produce more and better jobs than putting the money in the military. So, as a result, funding the military, and that's domestically, I'm not even talking about funding overseas bases and wars, is actually counter to creating jobs. So it's military or jobs. That's the choice. So what do? The first thing we do is realize that on most of these issues we're a majority. A lot of it just helps to realize that. A lot of times we think we're this little fringe group that understands everything, and most of the country is crazy. And it's just not true. If you look at the polls, if you read my book, I go through pages of polling data and surveys and a study where they took Americans and showed them the federal budget and what money went where and said, what would you move to what? And a strong majority of Americans would take a third of the military budget and put it into useful things. We're a majority. So realize that. In March, a lot of us are going to Washington, and we're going to do what Dr. King would be doing, what he was planning in '68, and that is nonviolently interfering, getting in the way, blocking the streets and the doors and the rooms and the hallways until they change what they're doing to respond to us. In Virginia, we started making a big community garden, and everybody pitched in and worked on it, and we're digging ditches to get the water to the garden. And with a little success, getting some things going. And then this crowd of rain dance people show up. And we're supposed to have a rain dance, right? And instead of digging to get the water, we're going to dance for it. And we have the most beautiful, successful rain dance ever, And it's not that everybody had given up. I mean, every year some people burn out and need a break and come back. But we were working, and then this rain dance thing happens. And it's going to be 4 years of guaranteed water And we aren't going to have to dig or work anymore. It's going to be ring we can believe in. It's going to change everything. And so we do it, and then it rains a little bit, and everybody says, oh my God, it worked. And they keep trying to convince themselves for months that it worked, until they figure out it's just raining the same amount it always did. Recognize that there are Congress members who feel the same way about all of these things as we do, and are just as frustrated, but they're cowardly, and they're corrupt, and they don't want to be the one to step out unless 30 or 80 other Congress members step out with them, and they're afraid to challenge their party leadership. So we have to give them the nerve to go against the leaders of their party and their funders and the corporate media. We have to show the potential for our support that could allow them to ignore Nancy and Ron and Barack. Thank you.